Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu, continuing to follow all of the latest developments out of the Middle East. And we have a live picture that I do want to share with you. This is a live look from Haifa, Israel. This is the aftermath of an Iranian missile strike there in Haifa, Israel. We've been seeing for several hours now the continuing efforts by crew to search through the rubbles. And this is a live look right there. Any updates, we, of course, will bring that to you right here on Live Now from Fox. Meantime, I also wanted to share this with you. This is from the White House saying a moment to be proud of. God bless America. God bless our troops. That is the statement. And you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, it says, "No man left behind." This comes as U.S. Special Forces rescued an airman in a high-risk mission deep inside Iran. This as President Trump is threatening to rain hell on Tehran if it does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz for oil flows vital to the world economy. President Trump announcing the rescue earlier today in a social media post that described the operation in a mountainous area as one of the most daring such missions in U.S. history. This is from the Secretary of the Navy saying, "Thank you, President Trump, for your leadership and decisive action. A bold, high-risk rescue brought our airmen home. Precision under pressure. Grateful for our U.S. Air Force and U.S. Army teammates and proud of our U.S. Navy team whose support and execution were critical to mission success. We never leave our warriors behind." Continuing to follow all of these major developments. And for more on this, I do want to bring in Jonathan Ruhe with JINSA to talk more on this as we continue to follow this. And Jonathan, we appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I do want to start off with this breaking news. The rescue was incredibly daring, very complex, and it also involved deception. You know, the United States dropping false information to anyone in Iran, indicating that they had already rescued the airmen when, in fact, that was not the case. And this is just a little bit more on that. This is from Fox News correspondent Trey Ying saying U.S. deception campaign. The CIA leaked through multiple sources that they were trying to remove a valuable package out of the country through a maritime X-file. I'm told by a senior U.S. official, this was meant to draw the Iranians away from the area where the U.S. crew member was located. The deception campaign worked. Can you talk a little bit more about the complex nature of this operation and what it indicates as we're now entering into the 6th week of war?
Certainly. So what this shows, first of all, is that the U.S. military's combat search and rescue capabilities are indeed quite impressive. And as we just saw from that quote, goes beyond just the U.S. military to include our intelligence community, spreading misinformation to keep Iranian forces away from the rescue point for the pilot. I think more broadly, what it shows is that the United States, what the meaning of air dominance, air superiority over Iran means. It means that we can continue to conduct air operations at relatively low risk, but not at zero risk. There's the potential for these things to happen, for Iran to shoot down our planes, as we saw even with the search and rescue effort to rescue the downed weapons systems officer from that F-15. This is an ongoing risk, and it does not mean that the United States is no longer able to conduct air operations, but that things like this could continue to happen potentially, and particularly if, as we've been hearing, Iran is getting valuable resupplies and weapons upgrades from Russia or China.
We continue to see the war evolve into different phases, and you mentioned Iran being supported by Russia and China. As we take a look at where this war stands right now and the progress being made on the side of the United States and Israel, where does this stand?
So I think, you know, it's easy to say that we're at an inflection point. Wars are always evolving, so those points are always arising. But I think, as we saw from President Trump's social media messages, this morning, there's a decision point now surrounding the Strait of Hormuz. Trump wants to be able to claim some sort of victory by getting the strait reopened. At least that seems to be a priority right now, given that the U.S. military may be running out of other targets. But at the same time, the Iranian regime is not going to reopen the strait. They're not going to agree to a ceasefire. So really where the war goes from here is, can U.S. and Israeli military operations reopen the strait or can find some other way to weaken the regime going forward?
Speaking about the Strait of Hormuz, and we have shared that social media post that President Trump issued earlier this morning. He also spoke with Fox News correspondent Trey Ying, stating, quote, "You're going to see bridges and power plants dropping all over their country. If they don't make a deal and fast, I'm considering blowing everything up and taking over the oil." Can you share more in terms of the strategy? We did have President Trump issuing a previous deadline to Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz, now issuing yet another one. When we hear the strength of the words from President Trump, what does this indicate? And to your point, the fact that Iran does not seem like they are willing to make a deal.
So I have some concern that Trump's strong words on paper actually reflect an increasing strategy of desperation. The goal of getting Iran to end its nuclear and missile programs through military force, those are certainly the strongest operational results from the conflict so far, although they are by no means complete. But we're seeing increasing reports from good sources that the Trump administration underestimated the fact that Iran was indeed very likely to try to close the Strait of Hormuz in retaliation. And so I think, right now, the threat of going after power plants, bridges, other infrastructure, while there may be some military logic to doing it, there's also the possibility that trying to focus on that target set risks draining resources and focus away from the core threats that led to Trump to go to war in the first place, which are Iran's most serious threats, those missiles and nuclear capabilities, and now also its ability to effectively blockade the strait by threatening to attack any ship that sails through it.
And I also wanted to ask you, last week, the European allies to the United States held a meeting. However, we've been seeing some of these European allies, such as Spain and Italy, even France, dig in their heels when it comes to helping the United States with the Strait of Hormuz. What can you share with us about the reluctance from European allies to support the United States in this endeavor and what that could indicate moving forward?
So I think the reluctance is twofold. Partly, it's a resentment at the fact that there was no effort at coalition building from the Trump White House before going into this war, a sense from European partners that this is a mess the U.S. has created, and now it's Europe's problem to go and help dig the United States out. I think there's some truth to that, and there's also some reflection of the fact that it's a convenient excuse for the Europeans for another reason, which is they really lack any significant capabilities to go and reopen the strait, at least by themselves. So going forward, I think it'd be very helpful to see greater comity, greater sense of shared purpose from the United States and its European allies. It's incumbent upon all of them, because Iran loves watching this division among its enemies, the United States and Europe. And I would just say also, for countries, particularly like Spain, this is just a convenient excuse for what they want to not do anyway, which is lift a finger in defense of European interests. We've already seen this glaringly in the case of Ukraine for years. So I think, again, this is a fig leaf for them to come up with a reason to not do what they were going to do in the first place, which is sit on their hands.
But and you were saying that Iran wants to see the division created between the United States and its allies, Israel and the United States continuing to be in lockstep in terms of this mission. But can you share with us, in terms of the impact that the Iran war is having when it comes to potential fragmentation with other U.S. allies, where do we all stand now? Because it does seem like those divisions are becoming more apparent.
So Where we stand right now, I think, is highly uncertain, but we can see a way to both a good outcome or a horribly negative outcome. Iran's whole strategy, because they know they cannot defeat the United States and Israel militarily, is to widen the war, broaden it, and make it both a regional and a global economic crisis in the hopes that America's Asian and European allies will pressure the United States to throw in the towel and essentially leave Trump isolated by himself. I think so far, I would have to say Iran has done a fairly decent job of carrying out that strategy. But by the same token, the United States, with concerted effort, is capable of reopening the strait, reestablishing maritime dominance in the Gulf. It would be great if some of our regional allies other than Israel, could help us with that, and ideally our European and Asian partners as well. But ultimately, the United States does remain militarily predominant. And again, with the proper focus, as we've seen so far, taking out missiles and nuclear sites and Iranian regime command and control, it is possible militarily to reopen the strait. Iran would prefer that we continue trying to negotiate with them to do that, because Iranians are happy never to agree to that.
Jonathan, what are your biggest concerns where we stand at this particular point?
So I think beyond the future of the Strait of Hormuz and everything it means for the global economy and America's alliances and also our credibility, because if Trump finds a way to end the war with Iran still thinking it controls the strait, it will be disastrous for the post-war period for the United States and for the region. I think going forward, another thing that's an area of potential concern is Iran's resilience with some of its missile capabilities. Even though I said the U.S. and Israel have done a great job of eliminating a lot of those capabilities, and they have, Iran's missile fire rates are very low. At the same time, there's the potential, I would just caution, that even if half or 70% or even more of Iran's missile launchers are indeed destroyed, they've shown that they can keep those going, and even firing a couple a day is able to have real strategic and diplomatic effects. So I would say, going forward, it's tempting to think in terms of end dates, maybe hoping the war goes another week or two. Really, it's important to think of end states, Iran's ability or eliminating Iran's ability to continue launching those missiles and ultimately, and most importantly going forward, threatening the global economy in the Strait of Hormuz.
Just how strong is the Iranian regime at this point?
So regime collapse is always gradual until it's sudden. And the key factor is always the willingness of the mid-level security forces, the Basij in this case, who have taken the lead in brutalizing the Iranian people in protests and also intimidating them during the war. It's ultimately when those mid-level and low-level officials and foot soldiers decide to give in or even simply go home. We have not seen that yet. But the hope is that given all the erosion at the top of the regime, from the decapitation of the supreme leader to all the IRGC officials, the hope is over time that will eventually cause this precipitous collapse. There are options going forward for the United States and Israel militarily to support that. But again, that augurs a longer campaign than just a couple of weeks. So I think the most likely scenario right now, if the war stopped, would be an Iranian regime that is both weakened at home and abroad, still facing a populace that eventually wants it gone. That writing is on the wall, but also a regime that is more defiant, more risk acceptant, and more willing to start wars and challenge the United States going forward. So it's a very mixed bag at this point.
Jonathan, before we let you go, is there anything else that you would want to share with our viewers?
Yes, I would just say, ultimately, how this war ends will have an effect far beyond just the future of America's role in the Middle East, our ongoing competition with Iran, and the nature of our alliances with Europe and Asia. China and Russia, as we mentioned, are starting to get involved indirectly in this war, supporting the Iranians, and they will do everything they can, read all the tea leaves, to look at how this conflict ends and make their calculations about how they can test the United States in other parts of the world, in Europe, in Asia Pacific. So, again, anything that seems like prematurely quitting or walking away without fully committing to ending Iran's nuclear and missile threats and reopening the Strait will have consequences far beyond just Operation Epic Fury.
Jonathan Ruhe with JINSA, as always, we appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
My pleasure, as always.
And I did want to share this live look of the White House as President Trump has given Iran a deadline to open the Strait of Hormuz. We also wanted to let you know that looking ahead to tomorrow, Monday, President Trump has said that he will be speaking publicly at 1 p.m. as the war continues. We're going to be bringing that to you live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to just step away for a moment. We have a lot more live coverage to come. Stay with us.